What is one fact you know that will make other people respond with, and why the FK do you know that? Strippers have to pay to work at their clubs. Usually they have to also pay the house mom and DJ. Every private room they book, 20% minus 30% goes to the house. A lot of dancers will also wear watches while working to make sure they are not spending too much time with one person. If they are not getting paid properly, since they can't carry their phones around. Geese are immune to pepper spray. Spicy things in general expel capsaicin, which receptors on most mammals pick up on and send signals to the brain that something hot is touching us. Geese lack these receptors, and thus pepper spraying them will only enrage them. That's why you can pepper bird seed feeders to deter squirrels without affecting birds. When you're in an enclosed airtight space, you don't die because of lack of oxygen, but rather because of carbon dioxide poisoning. It induces anxiety, panic, reduces your ability to make rational decisions. Think Apollo 13. It's a pretty crappy way to go. It takes about 5-6 hours in a boiling lye bath to fully dissolve a body, less if the pot you're using has a pressure cooker attachment. All you'll be left with is bone shadows, little undissolved bits of calcium that can be crushed, and a pinkish grey slurry that can be neutralized with vinegar so it can be safely dumped. Just make sure you don't use an aluminum pot, since lye will react with aluminum, creating aluminum oxide and hydrogen gas. Very flammable, often leading to an explosion from the heat source. Also toxic. Wombat naturally crap out cube-shaped poop. Scientists think it's so they can stack it to mark their territory without it rolling away. Crapping bricks. More just nifty animal facts. Squids have a donut-shaped brain with their esophagus running through the middle. If they swallow too big of a bite, they can give themselves brain damage. I have an honorable mention. It was one of those facts I heard as a kid, and for some reason I just want it to be true. Dog saliva has a boiling point much higher than human saliva. Men have a scar from their taint all the way to the head of the penis that is caused due to the closing of the vagina during development in the uterus. Can confirm. I always wondered what the frick that was. Japanese brothels often operate as restaurants, so you basically pay around $100 for some crackers and green tea. Everything else is just voluntary service. $100 gets you a girl to sit next to you for 30 minutes, not sex. Flatworms are dual gendered and mate by fencing with their penises. The winner is the one that penetrates the other's skin first. Some species have 2 penises. Sometimes, you need 2 swords to win at playing swords. You know how fireflies use their lights to indicate they want to mate with each other? Well, the females sometimes bait the males into coming over using the mating pattern, just so they can eat them. Rock hyraxes are not rodents, but are closely related to elephants. They appear very similar to marmots, a rodent, due to convergent evolution by filling a similar ecological niche. I rattled this off at work one day and someone really asked me exactly the title of this post. Wikipedia is the answer. Broccoli and cauliflower are man-made. It was carefully bred by Italian farmers more than 2000 years ago, carefully breeding different types of wild cabbage to create it. Brassica, that wild cabbage, was bred into broccoli, cauliflower, kale, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, collard greens, mustard, rapeseed, turnips, rutabaga. Before kale became a popular health food, the largest consumer of kale was Pizza Hut. They bought it to ring the salad bar. About 1 girl out of 100.000 will have the vaginal and anal tracts fused together, meaning that they can in fact get pregnant doing anal. Those tiny fake flowers and little glass vases at the gas station are less about the flowers and more about the glass, which can be used as a crack pipe. There's a small head shop, convenience store, Chinese restaurant, printing shop, ice cream joint down the street from me, and they straight up just have the tubes at the front counter. They know. This is something my bio teacher taught me last year. Basically, male barnacles have the longest penis to body ratio, and the penis actually extends out of the barnacle and goes searching around for female barnacles to have sex with. Stop calling Danny DeVito a barnacle. You can hang yourself in 3 ways. Rope really short, suffocation. Medium length rope, breakneck. Really long rope, decapitation. Yep. The British Empire in the 1800s had hangings down to a perfect system. They knew exactly how long to set the rope based off of size and weight of the condemned to achieve the perfect neck break every time. They were also incredibly efficient in the actual process of hanging someone. It took them very little time to do it. It takes 2-3 days to cremate a body on a standard bonfire. Regarding the Museum of Mummies, Ferdinand I of Naples governed by oppression. He had zero compassion for his defeated enemies, and after falsely promising them amnesty, he had them murdered instead. After their murders, he would have them mummified and added to his museum of mummies dressed in their clothes. If he thought anyone was plotting against him, he'd simply take them on a casual tour of the museum, which was totally morbid, but effective. I too am hyped about Crusader Kings 3. Since frogs have long tongues, they can't use it to push food down their throat like humans do. So when they have food in their mouths, they close their eyes and push the food down their throats with their eyeballs. They also vomit by throwing up their entire stomach, emptying it with their hands and then swallowing their stomach again. Vibrators were the 5th domestic electrical device invented. Because doctors were tired of masturbating women for them to relax from hysteria, if I recall correctly. Most birds don't have intermittent reproductive organs, like a penis or vagina, and they share their genes through a hole, called a cloaca, that leads to their inner organs. The act is called a cloacal kiss and is over super fast. Most duck species, however, do have intermittent organs. The penis is shaped like a corkscrew and can be 50% or more of the length of the duck in some species. This is because the vagina is an elaborate maze of twists and turns, creating an evolutionary arms race between the sexes. The longest duck dong award goes to the Argentine lake duck. Though he is a mere 15 inches long, his dangling corkscrew is up to 16 inches erect. Now that's gotta produce some drag. Thank you for that amazing info. I'll add duck dongs to the list of things that make me insecure of my penis size. The longest recorded piece of poop is 26 feet long. A typical ejaculation consists of 1 calorie. Why is Goose geese but moose is not meese? Well, I'm glad you asked. Goose has Germanic origins and thus follows the Germanic pluralization in the same manner as foot to feet, tooth to teeth, etc. However, the word moose was incorporated into the English language some 200 years later and has Native American origins. Yay. Look at all those fricking meese. Ireland's rail gauge is slightly wider than the international standard, yet its tram system uses the international standard. Same thing in Spain, that's why you can't take a train between Madrid and Paris without a transfer. The largest walnut grove in the world is located outside the small village of Arslan Bob, in mountainous southern Kyrgyzstan. Local oral legend has it the grove was planted by a migrant wise man nicknamed Arslan the Wanderer. DNA analysis of the trees has confirmed they are not native to the region and the local population came to the area from a related batch of seeds about 1000 years ago. Arslan the Wanderer is the name of the next NPC I create for our D&D campaign. After Alois Alzheimer gave the first ever speech describing the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, no one in the audience asked him any questions or made any follow-up comments, because they were all much more excited to hear the next guy on the list give a speech about compulsive masturbation. Erections that last more than 4 hours are considered bad because the buildup of deoxygenated blood causes the dong to be disfigured and later cause gangrene. When the Pilgrims first landed in America, they found these weird dirt mounds in a field, so they dug them up and discovered they were Native American graves. Oops, they returned everything, but then came back later to take the cooking pots and utensils that had been buried with the corpses. They apparently packed really light on the way over and didn't bring basic household essentials, which would be really useful in, oh I don't know, starting a freaking colony. Boston is roughly on the same latitude as Barcelona. The Pilgrims thought they were getting a Mediterranean climate, not a freezing winter. The slitting of the front of the throat is much more improbable than most people realize, given a bone is actually blocking the spot that most see in movies TV shows. If, in fact, a movie wanted to be more realistic they would instead have the sides of the throat slit because of the main artery that sits in that spot. Go to try this out someday. Thanks for the tips. Don't buy rabbit already skinned and gutted. Could well be cat. They look really similar if it's already skinned. You need to see the kidneys to tell. They are installed in a different config. Second, don't make risky meat purchases from a Sunday market trailer in a shady part of town. You can definitely tell by the teeth. Pro tip, always get ones with the head still attached. Anybody who has ever had to write a paper knows what 12-point font is. This point system relates to measurements for fonts, type, and certain design elements. 12 points go into 1 pica, and 6 pica go into 1 inch. While sizes vary from font to font even within the relative standardization of font sizes, if you need font that is about 1 inch tall, you want 72-point font, because 6 pica times 12 points is 72. For 2-inch font, 144, for 3-inch font 216, and so on. Male moths can vibrate their testicles at will to throw off bats. Arsha superpowers. Instead of a penis, male sharks have 2 claspers. They're made of the same cartilage as their skeleton, and also attached to their pelvis. The reason why Egyptian mummies are so rare nowadays is because the Europeans ate them. They believed that eating a mummy would have medicinal benefits and the spirit of the person they consumed would watch over and protect them. Eaten. Ground for pigments. Burned. There's lots of reasons people destroyed mummies. If you want to skin a human alive you have to do it in a warm room, otherwise he will die of the cold because his skin doesn't isolate him anymore. Ahem. Excuse me. What the frick? Jeffrey Dahmer tried to make sex zombies out of some of his victims by drilling holes in their heads while they were still alive and pouring acid into the holes. Frick, that sounds painful. Male giraffes will headbutt a female in the bladder until she urinates, then it tastes the pee to help it determine whether or not the female is ovulating. Be right back, gonna try that with my wife. If you're gonna be forced into cannibalism, make sure to cook everything except the liver. The liver has a bit of vitamin C and other trace things, many of which burn off in cooking. Also, avoid the brain like the plague, or in this case mad cow disease. Also prions, what causes mad cow disease, cannot be destroyed by cooking. Only about 1.4% of the uranium in the atom bomb dropped in Hiroshima actually fissioned, meaning that bomb was only about 2% as strong as it could have been. If you get starved and tortured, you can lose 30 pounds in a single week. Source: was starved and tortured for a week. Sear: lost 30 pounds. When men pee, the urine twists when it comes out due to the exit hole being a slit instead of a round hole. Story from my anatomy and physiology teacher in community college. She had this young 20s something girl who never said a single thing until they spoke about the hyoid bone. This girl never says anything else for the whole quarter, but when the teacher brings up that bone she pipes in with the hyoid bone is broken in most strangulation attempts, with a total deadpan face and never says another word the rest of the quarter, silenced the whole classroom. The flavor you get in banana candy is actually based on a variety of banana you don't really come across anymore and is not some completely random artificial flavor candy companies just made up. It's not really anything over the top like some of the other things here, but this fact has gotten people to look at me with utter astonishment a few times in life. I believe that the species of banana still exists in small pockets, but most of it was wiped out by disease. It used to be the most common cultivar. Male bedbugs try to sexually penetrate everything they come into contact with, even people. So anyone who's had bedbugs has been raped by bedbugs. The way to get people to join your cult is to first act like a relatable person and then slowly introduce them to the cult stuff. Most people are drawn to follow charismatic leaders, so if you act like an interesting, yet good-natured person for a large enough group, they eventually will do whatever you want them to, and might feel peer pressure to keep doing what you're telling them to do. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.